over the past few weeks, there have been a lot of hacks, and I've been talking about those hacks specifically. And most important one was, of course, the Binance hack. And since then, I've also been talking about fungibility, meaning how those coins could later on be valued less because they have a specific history. And this is a privacy issue that exists in many cryptos, and Bitcoin is one of them. And many people believe, including myself, that this privacy issue is one of the larger issues that Bitcoin is facing. So after that, obviously, many people have been asking me, well, what is the solution to the fungibility issue? How can we make Bitcoins fungible and make them more private? Well, this video is all about that. We're going to go through the different ways that you can make Bitcoin more private and more fungible. And it's going to be very interesting, I think. It's going to be very knowledge packed, so I hope that you're ready for that. But before I begin with that, I want to remind you to go and check out my new project, Exchange Ratings, because we are setting out on a mission to make the cryptocurrency exchange market more transparent and more open. And I need your help. We launched the site yesterday, so I really need your help to go there and give us some feedback. Leave a rating for an exchange that you like or someone that you dislike, whatever the experience that you've had with exchanges. We want you to go to exchangeratings.com and just leave your thoughts, leave your opinions, leave a review, leave a complaint if you have one, so that we can get this movement going in order to increase transparency in the exchange market, so that we can have fewer hacks, we can have fewer frauds, and we can have fewer people scammed by crappy exchanges. So make sure to go and check out exchangeratings.com, leave a review, and then let me know what you think about the site in general below. You can leave some feedback and I'll happily discuss with you in the comment section. With that being said, let's get into the issue in question. And that is, of course, fungibility. I spell this wrong every time. It's actually fungibility, I think. Fungibility. And I'm not going to go through the issue at length, but you probably already know about UTXOs and how they work. If you don't, there are plenty of videos on both YouTube and at our academy on how you can on how UTXOs work, and how in a Bitcoin transaction you have inputs. You can have multiple inputs, and then these are spent to outputs, or these are we create outputs from a transaction which can be spent in the future. Output, and these can be spent in the future, and these are unspent transaction outputs that we are now spending in this transaction, and therefore creating new outputs that might go to, you know, if these UTXOs came from Alice, when Alice create this transaction, the outputs are then going to Bob, for example, and then Bob can use these for inputs, or sorry, for, as in this case there's one input to another transaction and sending that to maybe two people. These can be split, and then usually there is some change going back to Bob because you have to spend the whole transaction output, not just some of it. So usually there's some change going back as well to the person in question that sent it. So then we create more UTXOs, and then these inputs become spent. But this is just a short summary. The problem with this is that this model enables you to go back in time and look at where has this UTXO been. Okay, so this UTXO here, that came from this UTXO here, and then that came from these two UTXOs here. And then we can trace those back to perhaps the Binance hacked coins, if that is an issue to some of you. But most people just care about privacy in general. They don't want people to be able to trace all of their spending patterns back, and therefore also tracing it back to a wallet potentially, where they can see how much money you have in your wallet when you actually spend your coins. And this is a large issue. Privacy is incredibly important to crypto and to Bitcoin. So how can we change, or how can we improve the privacy of this model? That is what I want to talk about. Let's see, let's get rid of this. We can keep the UTXO sketch up there. It might be helpful. And I'm going to go through 3 ways that we can achieve this. And 2 of them are pretty basic and they work, but they're not very practical. And the third one is a more technical solution to Bitcoin. So the first one is to use tumblers. And you're probably familiar with tumblers already. There are services, you can find them, just Google for Bitcoin tumblers, for example, and they will take your Bitcoins. You could take a very, very small amount or a very, very large amount, and they will create an incredibly large amount of UTXOs, and then they will shuffle those around. So they'll create transactions with many, many UTXOs and many, many outputs, and they will shuffle them back and forth, and then they will still end up at the end in your wallet, but they will now have a very, very obfuscated history, which is very hard to track down. And that is tumblers. They work, but the problem with tumblers is that they are often centralized. So they are a centralized server that you use and you pay a fee to them, and then they take your coins and you have to trust them to actually give you back the coins. And that's an issue, of course. Then the second option you have is to use altcoins. If you use privacy coins, then you don't have this issue. If you use Monero, for example, or Zcash, I don't really have a preference, then you already have this built in. They don't have the same model as you have in Bitcoin. You can't trace back the transactions like you can in Bitcoin. So then you could, for example, go back and forth between different privacy coins, and you can get rid of this history. But the problem there is, of course, that there's a lot of fees involved if you're going to trade back and forth, and it takes time to think about just having to go back between different altcoins and back to Bitcoin. It's not really practical. It's not practical. So none of these are optimal solutions to solving the issue at hand. The tumblers don't really fulfill what we want to see in crypto. It's centralized. It is based on trust. Altcoins, you can think different things about altcoins. Some people like them, some people don't. I have no problem with altcoins, but it's just not practical. It's my thought here. It's just not practical. So what is the third option? The third option is something that is a quite old technique actually, and it's called CoinJoin. It's one of the techniques that can be used to increase privacy in Bitcoin transactions. And this, as I said, is an old idea. I think this dates back to 2013 when this was posted on Bitcoin Talk Forum. You can read about it there. I'll see if I remember to leave a link in the description. Otherwise, you'll have to ask me in the comment section and I can provide it to you. But CoinJoin is an actual solution to this problem, which is on the, I would say, wallet level, meaning when we on the transaction creation level, where we can sort of collaborate in creating transactions that are more obfuscated. It is sort of a decentralized, it's sort of like a decentralized Tumblr. And I'm going to explain how it works and how you can use it, how it's actually now becoming user-friendly, because in 2013, I can tell you, it was not. So what is CoinJoin and how can you use it? Let's get rid of this. So let's talk about CoinJoin. And I'm going to draw here, and we're going to make it a bit bigger than last time. Let's say we have a transaction that spends 3 UTXOs. Or let's just take 2 for the sake of it. It makes it a bit easier. Let's take a transaction that spends 2 UTXOs, and this is a transaction, of course, and it is sent. It just has one output, and it goes to me. Let's say it goes to me, Philip. I own this UTXO, and therefore it looks like a balance in my wallet. That's how wallets present it. And now if someone were to look at this transaction and try to figure out sort of the payment history here, the way that you look at a transaction is usually that you take for granted that these 2 UTXOs right here, they come from the same person. So maybe they find that these 2 come from different addresses, but they find that maybe one they can connect through more history. They can connect that to a person called Alice. Then they would assume that this UTXO as well come from Alice, because this is a payment that is done to me, and therefore if Alice is paying me to this UTXO and we could find that through the history, we would assume that Alice has combined multiple UTXOs from multiple addresses that she has and owns, but we can't really track this down, the second UTXO. But we would assume that because this transaction only has 2 UTXOs, it has one output. The logical thing here is that this is one person that paid me a specific amount. And this assumption is actually false. Of course, it doesn't have to be Alice that provided me with this second UTXO. And this assumption falls apart even more the more UTXOs we actually have here. If we build transactions that has many UTXOs, it would be way harder for someone to say, hey, I know that all of these UTXOs, they came from Alice. Because we know that the assumption is false, but as long as people continue to create transactions like this, because most people create transactions that look like this. Most people create transactions that have, where all the UTXOs, where all the inputs, they come from the same person. This is usually how we create transactions, and Alice might probably does own this UTXO. So we need to break this pattern. We need to break the pattern that all UTXOs come from, all inputs come from the same person. And how do we break that? Well, we collaborate in creating transactions so that if we have, let's get rid of this once again. If we have multiple people, we have Alice, Bob, which do have more names. We can have Andrew, we can have Lisa. All of these want to send Bitcoin payments. So they go together and they collaborate and they say, hey, we like privacy, so we're going to create a transaction together. So we're going to take all of the outputs. Maybe they have 2 outputs each that they want to spend in this, or maybe Lisa has 3. And they're going to collaborate and create a transaction where instead of following the old, pattern of, okay, I want to send the payment, so I'll create my own transaction, they collaborate and they fit all of their UTXOs as inputs to this transaction. So that will be many, many inputs. And that will have a different history, of course, because these people don't know each other. They are random people that has chosen to collaborate. And then they have maybe 4 outputs to different people they are paying. And then they would need to, of course, they would have to provide all of the signatures respectively. And then this transaction would work just like any other transaction. And what we've done then is to break this assumption, because no one would be able to look at this and prove that these all come from the same person. And they can look at the output as well and see that these go to a completely different person. So how can they know which inputs were meant for which person? This confuses anyone that tries to look at this from the outside, because they have no idea which inputs were going to which output. They can't connect that. They can't connect that from within the Bitcoin transaction data structure. There is no such connection. So all of a sudden they can't assume anymore, like they could when we only had, Alice sending 2 UTXOs and 1 output to me. They can't assume that anymore. So we break this assumption and therefore we increase privacy. And that is the most important thing. That is the way we bring back privacy and fungibility into Bitcoin. But this relies on a couple of things. One, that this is easy to do and that this can be done automatically. This collaboration is not something that we want to do through, WhatsApp or whatever. It doesn't work that way. We need to be able to do it easily and automatically. And a lot of people need to do it. The more people that does this, more privacy. More people, more privacy. Because in order to actually bring a lot of privacy, we need to have a lot of inputs, right? We need to have a lot of people collaborating. So the more people we have that do these transactions, the more privacy we will have. And this is where the actual new this new wallet comes in. I don't know if it's new necessarily. I just found it now when I was researching this. There is a wallet called Wasabi. And I'm not affiliated with Wasabi. I haven't even used the wallet, so no sponsorships here. But Wasabi has actually implemented this. They have implemented this technique. Plus, they have also implemented Tor. So they have Tor plus CoinJoin. And this masks the IP. So this hides IP. So they can't track your IP, see where the transaction propagated it from. And this will automatically, the CoinJoin that is implemented into Wasabi wallet, will automatically, when they construct the transaction, they will automatically take multiple inputs and form this type of transaction that we draw. So they will create this collaboration, they will construct these transactions, making it harder to actually trace these things, making it harder to break privacy and to break fungibility in Bitcoin. And you can try Wasabi out. I haven't tried it, as I said. I have just researched the technology, so I don't even know, how this works in practice. But if you do the research for yourself and you figure out, hey, I want to try this, you can try it. I would probably do it myself after researching a bit more, but once again, you have to take responsibility for which wallet you're trying and so on. I am not affiliated with Wasabi. I don't know anything else about it. I can't recommend it because I haven't used it, but I like the technology that they are using, and it solves a problem in Bitcoin. But as I said before, the more people that use a wallet like this, the more people that use a technology like CoinJoin, the better privacy we will have. So hopefully this is a standard that will continue to actually become more and more common. With all of that being said, I want to thank you for watching. If you have any questions for me, feel free to leave them in the comments, and also don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, all of that good stuff. And don't forget to check out exchangeratings.com and provide your thoughts, your opinion on the exchanges that are out there today. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.